Welcome, everyone. Thrilled to have you today at Bootcamp. Went ahead and put a prompt in the chat so that as everyone is settling in and finding us, it would be great for you to introduce yourselves. We do see all of your notes when you sign up for Bootcamp, but a refresher is always helpful, and this way you all can start getting to know each other too. And this allows me to tailor today's Bootcamp to you all and whatever is best for you and what you and your learners need. And of course, as soon as I say hello, my little guy Bernie woke up from his nap. So we'll see, he might give us a bit of a live demo here. If so, I will stop sharing the screen and let you all see him press. And as you all introduce yourselves, I'll read them out and then I'll introduce myself in just a few minutes as well. Welcome, John. And Nicole, welcome to you. And your Black Standard Poodle, Bailey, just turned 9 this week, just starting. Great, happy birthday to Bailey. Jenny, welcome to you. And Olive, 12-week-old Labrador. Hi, Bernie. Hi. Bernie was just saying hello to me. I know he might be a little hard to see. Hi, bud. Hi. So he woke up from his nap. He wants to say hello in greetings. So I'm not only verbally saying hi to him, but I also am going to go ahead, hi, and press our hi button. Hi, bud. Hi. Yeah. Yeah. Hi. There is nothing wrong with buttons being used for attention or connection. That is a primary use for a lot of our learners. So whether it's as simple as them pressing your name, their name, a hi button, whatever it is, we love to encourage any kind of interaction like that. Welcome to you and Luca and Lily, Aussies. Love it. I've got little Minnie, who's 11, Ash. He might wake up from his nap and appear on camera here. He's not a big presser, but he usually makes appearances and is happy to respond whenever anybody else presses. And we have Calvin here from FluentPet. Thank you so much, Calvin, as always, for joining us. He's had so much success with Jason, his cat. They've been such a fun team to watch. And a little bit of housekeeping before we dive in. We do recommend Chrome or Safari. That tends to work best for this platform, the Circle platform that we're on for the FluentPet community here. So if at any point you're having trouble seeing a video or hearing, sometimes switching the browser works. Though admittedly, I'm on rural internet, and so I know I can come through a little bit blurry. So as long as the presentation looks good, we should be good. Candace, welcome to you and Leota, 8 months old. Sarah, welcome to you and your 6-month-old Tibby Bella. Rachel, welcome. 3 German Shepherd dogs. Primary learner is Oliver. German Shepherd Malinois. Crate rest at the moment. Oh, trying to find a way to tire him out. Sorry to hear about the crate rest. Unfortunately, I know all too well. Definitely can use the brain power here. And we'll talk more about this as we go through. But remember that behavior is information. So if you see them, licking their paws, for example, because they're just like, I need something to do, and you see them, fixating on their paw, it might be worth adding a lick button, and then they press that. You get them something like a licky mat, something that's more acceptable, less potentially harmful, depending on if they're fixating too much on licking themselves. Or say they're chewing on the buttons, chewing on the hex tiles. Again, behavior is information. It might be worth adding a chew button, and then when they go to pick something up, especially those of you who have young puppies, instead of it turning into an, oh no, keep away, or them feeling like they're being punished for interacting with the board, or something else you don't want them to have, you can press a chew button, trade them for something that they are allowed to have, like a yak cheese chew, bully stick, antler, whatever is safe, vet approved for their size and age. So thinking about using the buttons in that sort of way can be really helpful. All right, and on the agenda today are our introductions, which we're doing right now. Then we'll chat through the keys to button teaching, modeling first words, and target training. This is an interactive discussion, as you all are probably realizing. So anything you say in the chat, I'm happy to, answer the questions about, elaborate on. I want this to work for you all and your learners. You know your learners and your household best. So as we discuss our general best practices here, if there's anything that doesn't seem like it's going to work for you, let us know and we'll figure out what will instead. Hi, Bernie. So Bernie just pressed the Bernie button. And notice he is a board flopper. He primarily presses by laying on the board. Hi, buddy. Hi, Bernie. Hi, Bernie. And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as they're not frustrated and you can understand them, any style of pressing works. Nose pressers have the advantage of being able to sniff out a button. It's a little bit easier to do a wall mounted board in that case as well, but let them find their style. Maybe they're a righty, maybe they're a lefty, maybe they're ambipaw, whatever it may be. What does Bernie want? Hi, Bernie. What is it? Hi. Hi. Oh, I figured you wanted to play. Okay. Bernie wants play. And so interestingly, we have multiple play buttons on our board because I have 3/4 learners, counting my little senior occasional mini Aussie who uses the board. So I want there to be abundance. I don't want this to be a competition for my learners. And play is so high value for both Bernie and for my border collie Adora that there's a play button right here that he was thinking about rolling on. And then instead of flopping there, he came over, hi, Bernie, to the one on the cat board and pressed that instead. So I'm in the process of integrating them all together. We can talk more about all that later too. That's a bit advanced, but I wanted you to see they can press in whatever method and style that they want. Neighbor. So neighbor was definitely accidental. Bernie just before that was accidental that time. He was just grooming himself and hit it. But we want to presume competence. We want to respond as though it's intentional every single time, no matter what. That way they know that you're going to respond, that it's a consistent response each and every time as well. And Calvin added that adding a scratch button with my yoga mat, Jason's scratch pad nearby, helped me redirect his aggressive button bashing. Yes, yeah, and we've got a scratching post nearby. I mentioned chew, but not scratch. Having a scratching post to redirect them to, or a cardboard one that is my other cat, Katie's favorite. Having something like scratch and a scratch button to redirect them to is a great option as well. And Sarah says, mine's scared to press the buttons. I'm sorry to hear that. You are not alone in that though. We want to have them start with the buttons from a point of neutrality. So in your case, before we dive into all of the how-to that we're about to talk about, just think about maybe borrowing an additional human if you live alone, and let's desensitize to the buttons a little bit. It might even take having the second human go all the way outside and you can only see them, but barely, you can't hear them, which means your learner hopefully can only barely hear it. Press that button outside, something that they love, something they really want, like a pet, like pets from you, brush. Sometimes cats love being brushed, sometimes dogs do too. Treats, often highly motivating. So press whatever they're into, for example, a food button, and then feed them inside and gradually move closer together, or, work to having the window open so there's still distance and they're easing into the sound. If it is kind of noise, if it's that level of fear, we want to get them to be neutral. But we'll talk about target training as well, helping them want to reach out and work on their accuracy as well. But we want to go slow. We can always go faster down the line. Let's build a really strong foundation to begin. All right, y'all. Thank you for your interest. If anybody has not had a chance to introduce themselves yet, feel free to do so. And a little bit more about me. My name is Morgan Krug. I'm a certified dog behavior consultant. I've been working professionally with animals for going on 18 years now, and while I'm best known for teaching my blind cat Jasper to use the buttons, who's pictured here, I've had multiple successful dog and cat learners as well. So you already saw Bernie, my one-eyed guy who was flopping on the buttons there. Hi, mister. Sorry, he was getting into dog food that I should not have left out on the counter. um, so you've already seen Bernie, and then I have Katie, who is a mostly blind kitten. They are kind of Jasper's legacy after she passed now. And I have Adora, an almost 6-year-old border collie who's been using the buttons for 4.5 years. Nice. And so more cats are representing here. We've got 2 3-year-olds and 1-year-old, all Maine Coons. I love it. Good variety of learners today. Yeah, and so in addition to our interactive discussion, I'll share more resources, and then we'll have more time for Q&A at the end today too. All right, and so there's a close-up of Bernie. So a little bit more about us. While Alexander Rossi and Christina Hunger were using buttons previously with their learners, FluentPet is the original button teaching system. So what does that mean? It means that our mission is to figure out how to teach dogs, cats, and the other animals we share this planet with how to talk, or an approximation of it. And we believe that pulling this off will take a village, a community that can develop and share button teaching tips and tricks and work together to discover the most successful button teaching approaches. So that is where you all come in. Our success in this mission entirely depends on your success with your learners. And the more of us who are able to progress, the faster we can figure out just how far all this can go. And so if any of you are wondering how far can all this go, we think this video really helps paint a picture of what's possible, and you'll probably recognize Alexis and Bunny.
The foundation for getting started with buttons is just a desire to connect. I can't remember the exact order, but I think she pressed stranger mad, and I was like, what does that mean? And then ouch paw. And she came over to me and she put her left paw in my hand, and I was like, okay. And I looked between her toes and she had a foxtail stuck between her toes.
This was the stranger in her paw. She's got a mat between her toes.
Jasper, she had an eye procedure and was able to request medication multiple times afterwards with eyes and help or some combination of that to let me know that she wanted that relief. And it's not all medical related. There's lots of fun examples too. One of my favorite early ones was with Scout, a Catahoula mix, who would repeatedly combine water and bone. Took us a little while to figure out what she wanted, but it was ice cubes. And so she got an ice cube button and was able to advocate for herself in that way. So it really is amazing how creative they can be, even with a limited vocabulary. All right, so how do we begin? For those of you who are just starting off, our very first step is going to be modeling. And before you have your buttons set up, if you're waiting for them to still arrive, maybe they're still in the box, you can always be narrating. You can be practicing this verbally. So be specific with your language. Try to, keep track of what yourself and other household members are using, and pick the concepts that are easy to be consistent about and that are easy for you to say yes to. We want to set ourselves up for success and our learners up for success by capturing that excitement, their enthusiasm around the board for those of them that are not concerned about it, and teach them that this is an amazing tool that they now have available to them. But if they press a button and you're like, no, we'll do that later, then they're like, okay, well, what's the point? So the more you can say yes and follow through, the better. So 3 simple steps once you have those buttons set up. Again, we're talking to them all the time, but then we're going to press that button, something we can immediately, frequently follow through on and say yes to. Step 2, follow through. Tell them yes, show them the meaning of the word by making it happen. And then step 3 is repeat. Go back to step 1, repeat, repeat, repeat. It's a lot of repetition, especially early on while we're helping them understand that the buttons have a consistent outcome each and every time. We're building that strong foundation for them. And the speed at which they pick this up has no bearing on their long-term success. So if you've already been modeling a lot and your learners aren't pressing yet, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong, that your learners are less intelligent. They're all individuals. And as some of you all have already noted, even within the same household, even within litter mates, they're going to pick this up at different rates. They're all different, and that's okay. again, the speed at which they pick this up has no bearing on their long-term success. So it doesn't mean that they're not going to get it. And some of our most successful pressers these days took sometimes weeks to months before they pressed on their own. So keep at it, keep modeling, keep working with whatever learner is taking off with it, kind of go at their pace. And you can always do a duplicate board for your other learners so that they're not overwhelmed by, one large board. Hence why my cats had their smaller one that I'm slowly integrating into the big main board here. But I'll honestly probably always keep some redundancies for the high value things like food, play, mom, those sorts of buttons. All right, so what does this look like day to day? Well, when you're first starting off, again, we want to be modeling as much as possible. Think about 10 to 15 times per button per day if you can. So here's Kelly and her learner Delmer. This is the first 24 hours that they had buttons down in their household, so you can get an idea of this repetition.
Puzzle. Outside. 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 Puzzle. Outside. Pets. Puzzle. Outside. Outside. Pets. Puzzle. Puzzle.
Yes. Puzzle. One puzzle?
Puzzle.
Right there.
Puzzle. Outside. 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 Puzzle. Outside. Puzzle. Outside. Outside. Outside.
So again, she's talking to them all throughout, but she's pressing that button and then following through as well. And Delmer is one that took a little while before pressing, but now he presses regularly and will use other household boards. Like we'll go to somewhere new, like he's been to my house, and we'll go over and press a button, listen, and wait to see what the outcome is. So they can learn to learn new boards, learn to learn new buttons as well. But again, we want to build that really strong foundation first. So modeling whenever you can, frequently throughout the day. And then also thinking about something like rapid modeling. Maybe you're not home as much. Maybe you only have energy first thing in the morning or just before bed. You've got 30, 60 seconds. That's it. That's okay. That can be enough to teach some buttons. So some rapid modeling or rapid pairing to help them associate the button with the outcome can really help drive the point home. And something like food that is easy for them to want more of, easy for us to say yes to, and rapidly pair tends to work really well. Though you could do this with a play button instead if that's more motivating, or pets, or whatever else. So here's Kelly with a different learner, Nushka, doing some food modeling. So this is with a snack button. Notice that Kelly's pressing the button with the piece of food to really drive home that this button equals this food appearing. The smell is being added that way as well. So we're really pairing and associating these with each other. And it gets to the point where you take a break for a second or you get distracted by your phone, whether intentionally or unintentionally. You glance away from the button, look away from your learner, and some of them might just try to hit it right then and be like, excuse me, I want my snack, or eat, or whatever that button is, play, and they hit it, and then you're able to follow through. So that rapid modeling, again, just committing as short as 30 seconds a day. But if you can do that several times throughout the day, even better. So really, again, just helping them understand strong foundation of button has a consistent outcome each and every time. Okay, so how do we choose which buttons to start off with? And I see some typing, so don't worry, I'll see your questions when they come through here. We want to be, yep, I figured that would be one of the things here. So I thought it was not recommended to start with a food button. For this purpose, does it have more pros than cons? Absolutely more pros, yes. There is unfortunately some outdated literature still getting sent out saying not to start with food buttons. I know the first kit that I got explicitly said don't start with food either. But when we go through this list of what a starting button should be for our learner, when we look at our ideals, it should be motivating and meaningful to your individual learner, easy and convenient to model immediately, and concrete or actionable, something that's easy to follow through on, show them the meaning of, and not too abstract, because the soundboard itself is an abstract tool that they're learning how to use. So when we go through this criteria of the 1, 2, and 3, food hits it so incredibly well for the vast majority of our learners that we've found that that initial advice of not starting with food is outdated. With more research and more experience and observing thousands of households now, they were operating under the assumption initially that they would only want to press for food, that they would think that all of the buttons equaled food. And so folks like myself, early on, I went, oh my gosh, well, with my border collie, I absolutely don't want her to get obsessed with a food button. That would be terrible. I'm going to start with ball and outside for her. Well, guess what she thinks are way better than food? She's a working line border collie, like bred to do agility. She loves ball. Ball is life, and she loves going outside. So that is actually far more likely for her to become obsessed with than a food button, which makes so much sense now. But at the time, I was adamant, like, oh, I'm not going to start with that food button. That's what all the advice says. I actually added a food button pretty early on for her, just to calm her down, to give her an option to work on a puzzle, to do something independent, to do a cookie scatter, some nose work, just to buy me some break time between all of her outside and ball requests. So it depends on your learner. You know your learner in your household best. If they are a resource guarder, if they're already on a diet, if you know that they will never be satiated and you're just never going to get a break, maybe don't start with that food button, or have it come out just for a rapid modeling session or just around meal times or something like that, instead of living on the board. But I think what you'll find is that once even the most food excitable learners realize that they have access to it, that you're going to say yes to their press more often than not, it's no longer a limited resource. It's no longer as exciting. So it can diminish in value and become a healthier relationship with food once they realize they have that control. There might be a bit of time, at least for my cat, Katie, feral kitten coming off the street. There was definitely a few weeks there where she was pressing that food button every chance she got. And sometimes I would just give her a single kibble as a result, because it was a general eat. I could narrate it though when I was eating, when anybody else in the household was eating. And for my blind cat, Jasper, she had leukemia. That's unfortunately how she passed. But at the time, with all the advice saying don't start with food, I was like, well, I want her to gain weight. The vets want her to gain weight. If she became obsessed with a food button, that would be great, actually. And I didn't think she would live. I mean, she wasn't supposed to live more than another few weeks at the time we started buttons, but she thankfully lived for years. And it got to the point where it revolutionized her relationship with food. She went from gorging herself to the point of regurgitation, stressing the moment the food bowl had any gaps in the food, eating just so that nobody else would get it, to willingly leaving food in her bowl, pressing all done and letting me clear it and telling me when she wanted more. And I've seen the same thing happen with Katie now. And she will actually give me specific requests for kibble, for pumpkin. She loves pumpkin as a meal topper when she wants wet food. So it's not right for every household, but I would recommend starting with it unless your learner is already on a diet or you've got severe resource guarding. It's been really great. And if anybody else is still on the fence, the other kind of analogy that I like to give, think about if you sat down at the slot machine and you knew that this was your private slot machine. Every single time you pulled that lever, you would win the jackpot. You would get exactly what you wanted. Eventually, you'd be swimming in millions. And you'd be like, well, I kind of need to eat. I need to go to the bathroom. I want to go take a walk. If you knew that when you came back and you sat down, you pulled that lever and you would win the same thing every single time, or maybe something slightly different. Sometimes it would be even more money. Sometimes it would be your absolute, in my cat's case, their favorite wet food versus, a different protein that they still enjoy but isn't a favorite. So that can be really helpful. So Rachel asks, I read that we should use words that we use naturally in our everyday. Absolutely. Instead of saying outside, I tend to say go out. Is it okay to have buttons that include multiple words, or will that cause issues in the future? Excellent question. So in your case, it's up to you if you want to have your outside button be called go out, but it may be worthwhile to have it just be called out. And then you could have a separate concept of go as well. But it's up to you. Do you say go with other things? Do you say go potty, go upstairs, go? Like if go is a separate action concept for you, kind of like play and outside can be separate buttons, by all means. Or you can have it as a single button. Love you is a single button in my household. All done is a single one in my household. Sometimes short phrases do make sense. It really just depends on if it can be parsed out into multiple buttons down the line, if that would be useful or not. And only you can answer that. And if you start it as go out and then eventually decide to parse it out, you could also do that too. You're not stuck forever. I think change is inevitable with the board. Just remember, if you do make adjustments, model any changes that you're making. And I prefer for my learners to have the option to be present when I'm making board adjustments. I don't want them waking up from a nap or coming in from outside and being like, whoa, things smell, look, feel different. That doesn't feel fair to them, right? So model and give them a chance to be present for any board adjustments that you make. Yeah, so we'll definitely talk about blind cats specifically in a moment. We have another question. I'm just setting up my soundboard and buttons. I plan to make my own stickers and labels. Nice. What are your thoughts on using words versus images? Also color coding, since dogs have a different range of color. If color coding is recommended, what colors are the best to use based on their color vision? So there is an app that will let you see kind of through their vision lens that I highly recommend. It's hard to visualize, I feel like, otherwise. But for me, it's totally up to you. Some folks do like to do like, all right, all the green hex tiles are going to be location, all the red are going to be emotions. That is not as important to me. For me, especially with low vision learners, I'm going for comfort and contrast. So you can see I've kind of got the yoga mat here to help with more grip, got kind of nap zones for the cats with extra hex tiles there, or for them to lay or flop on the board. So for me, I'm doing a lot of variation with just different hex tiles next to each other. And then I also try to do a different shape for every single island of hex tiles. And then every single hex tile itself has a different layout of the buttons within them. So for me, again, I have low vision learners, so I'm really looking for contrast. And I have plans for this one to get filled in, but we're not there yet. And since I have a board flopper in Bernie, I need them spaced out a little bit more for less accidental presses. And then my border collie is such an enthusiastic full body presser that's why I also have gaps. But notice how like each of these layouts, they're a little bit different. I try to have different patterns, different colors next to each other. But there's plenty of households that have fully monochromatic boards that have it designed around their aesthetic, the human aesthetic. There's fully blind learners who can use the board and the buttons. So it's up to you. For those who do have low vision learners, it's not as much of a challenge in my experience as you would expect it to be. When you think about what our dogs and cats have evolved for, they've evolved for distance and movement-based vision. Their visual acuity, their accuracy up close isn't great anyway. So they're all probably using some amount of muscle memory and motor mapping to remember where the buttons are. That's also why we don't want to change everything too much, too fast, too soon, and have them, have their motor pattern go to press and be like, oh, that button's not there. So making those slower adjustments for them. But I also, of course, it's the one is taped down to the floor that I would normally show. But I also took furniture protectors and put them on top of the buttons, to just some of them that are more frequently used by my lower vision cats, to create kind of a kitty braille to help them differentiate via texture between different buttons. So this is just a little bit of cork. This is just, a felt furniture protector. These are more rubber options. I've used felt as well. So just thinking about things that aren't going to feel aversive. I've used the soft side of Velcro. I've used a button, like a button from a coat jacket on top of one, just for a really different feel. I put that on top of the button because I just felt like that felt like a to me for some reason, and it works for my cats. The soft side Velcro is what's on the pets button, and these things all help absorb scent, which I think is helping them differentiate as well. Oh, nice. And I'm sure there's a cat vision app out there too. There's, because it is a slightly different range that they have as well. Yeah, and so there's likely some amount of pattern recognition going on with either the lettering for some. I'm not saying that animals can read, but if they see it in the same font, in multiple places, I think there's some pattern recognition there. And even the icons, the images on the buttons as well, like the stickers, that sort of thing. Yeah, and just generally speaking for cats, sometimes teaching them on an elevated surface. So we began with kind of buttons up here, which is now just a feeding station, so that especially in a multi-species household, my cats weren't as worried about being underfoot. And with them being visually impaired, I feel like they have even more concerns about that. So an elevated safe space for cats to practice and to process on their own time can be helpful too. Calvin, thank you. You're crushing in the chat today. As always, shouldn't just say today. Right, hopefully that helps. Let me know if I can clarify anything else. All excellent questions. And I know it's sometimes hard to even conceptualize or think about all of these things. I'll be sure to share more resources that you can do deep dives into all this, or have follow-up questions and all too. So, and real quick, so 2 or 3 buttons, more than one, to help them understand different buttons mean different things. Put the concepts you're thinking about through this criteria. So like the outside button is on here, common starting button, but it's not always the best. If you live on the 10th floor, it's not going to be easy and convenient for you to model immediately, even though, it might be meaningful to your learner, but set yourself up for success. If they already have potty bells or a doorbell or their own pet door to let themselves in and out, same thing. Outside's not going to be super meaningful because they already have a different way, or is motivating, I should say, because they already have a different way of communicating it. And the buttons, again, similar to having duplicates for my learners of things that they want, like mom, play, eat. Buttons are all about abundance. It's an option for them to be specific and precise in their communication, but it's just one option of many. We can still listen to their body language, to their vocalizations, follow, the patterns that they have already established to tell us what it is that they want. Just if they're telling us via body language, narrate what it is that they're doing, maybe press the button. If it's not an urgent request, if it's urgent, follow through. If it's a potty request, get them outside. That's not the time to teach the potty button. But if it's less urgent, press that button and then follow through. So in summary, grabbing 3 buttons, 3 hex tiles, and go. You can always move the location when you're first working on it. Carry the whole board around until you decide where you want it to live. Somewhere centrally located, though, tends to be best. If you have the buttons too spread out, like by the back door, by, the outside by the back door, eat in the kitchen, play by the toy bin, that sort of thing, it can be easier to model initially. But when you're ready to start adding abstract concepts like more and all done, or now, or yes, that can go with all of the things, right? Eat more now. That gets challenging with combining buttons if they're all spread out. So that's why we recommend just starting with a central board in a central location. And especially if you do start with something really motivating like a food button, you might be getting more presses than you want or that you would like. And again, I got more than I could handle just from balling outside for my border collie. So I added more and all done very quickly thereafter to help kind of set some boundaries. But just adding more and all done wasn't enough. That was really frustrating to her. So thinking about the more things that you can put down on a board to say yes to, that way you're directing them elsewhere. So that's why I added the puzzle button, a food button for Adora, so that I could, fill up a stuffed Kong or have her work through some kind of puzzle toy to get food out of. And it would just buy me some quiet time, give her some brain work. So think about more things you can say yes to. And then when you're ready for the abstract concepts, adding them in pairs. In pairs, because then you can model them in opposition to one another. So that's why more and all done are listed together, yes and no, now and later. Because when we think about, again, like, yes, more outside now. You can go outside. Yes, more eat now. More play. You're playing with them. You're getting more food. But what happens when they ask for outside and you can't? And you tell them, no, outside all done. We'll go later. Nothing happens, right? Nothing just happened other than you telling them that. So that's a lot harder for them to understand. So that's why picking a pair of abstract concepts to model in opposition to one another can be helpful. And as always, before you're ready to put this button down, narrate it, practice talking to them about it. Emotions can be abstract or are abstract and can be modeled in opposition to one another as well. So think about something positive like a happy button that you can model in contrast to mad or sad or frustrated. That can be really helpful. Safe versus concerned, names, your name versus theirs, whether you want to be called mom or dad or by your first name, it's up to you. Friend versus stranger, thinking about things like this that you can be modeling in opposition to one another. Then we have ongoing mentorship calls that are free this month and a way for you to kind of do a deep dive into these different topics too. So we'll go over that and where to find those soon. Oh, great question. Is self-identification helpful early on with multiple pets? I think so. I'm not in a rush necessarily to add the buttons on the board because I don't want to overwhelm. And again, I want to get those independent presses. And there's a bit less of a concrete or actionable outcome. Like when Bernie pressed his name, I can go, oh, Bernie, and come over to the board. He can get my attention, which is great. But then what do we do? So that's why I'm not as in a rush to add it. But I will say, as soon as I added that Bernie button, he loves to press it. They love pressing the mom button. The kittens they'll press each other's names and play to request. The other night, Katie was growling and hissing at Bernie when he was just trying to play with her. I think she knew that he was trying to play. She just wasn't in the mood. But he was very sad that she wasn't in the mood and went over to the board and pressed Katie and then play. He was like, oh, I know, buddy. I know that's all you want to do. So that can be really helpful. And Calvin is already on top of it, but we've got a great link for adding names and abstract concepts with kind of a tea party of practicing like mom eat. And then in my household, Katie eat, Bernie eat, Adora eat, or play or whatever it is that they're into. Yeah, great question. All right. So if you're modeling consistently and you've chosen motivating buttons for your learners, often they will start experimenting or at least trying to press, but not always. If they're not yet pressing independently or they seem like they just don't understand how to activate the button themselves, target training can help them connect the dots, build confidence, a sense of agency around the buttons and the board. And it's helpful for learners who could use a little bit more precision, including young learners who are going through growth spurts. So we can think about target training as helping them develop eye-paw or eye-nose coordination, depending on how they naturally prefer to press. We've got a few different links that we'll add for you for videos with target training that are up right now. Thank you, Calvin. The first one is with Alexis and Bunny. And I just want to highlight one thing from that video. So I went ahead and pulled the play button. You can also always get creative and pop the button out of the hex tile. If you know you're going to be snuggled up on the couch watching TV for the night, pop that pets or cuddles, snuggled together, whatever relevant button you have, pop that out of the hex tile, bring it with you, and just set it beside you on the couch. And you can intermittently narrate verbally, press that button. They can prompt you to keep petting them if they want by hitting the button. So you get creative. It's okay to pull it out of the hex tile. Just know that once it's worked back down into the hex tile, it looks different. And so it makes sense if they need a little bit of help learning how to press it in the hex tile as well as outside of it. But it's still a great shortcut. So with Alexis and Bunny, that video, if you already have a high five from that your learner knows how to do, put the button in the palm of your hand, cue them to give you a high five, and then follow through. Same thing if they already know how to do a nose touch, cue them to give you a nose touch, follow through. So make sure it's something that they want. Same thing for shake or paw. Give them that cue, follow through. The next two are great for smaller learners, cats in particular, that might need help with the weight shift to press. A lot of them naturally want to bat at the sides of things or tap as opposed to shifting and pressing. Totally normal, totally makes sense. Target training can help with that weight shift for them. The other thing that I like to do to help them is just press the button for them. When in doubt, help them out. I don't want them getting frustrated, giving up, walking away, being like, this is not fun. I want this to be enjoyable, engaging for them. So when in doubt, help them out. If you see them trying, nosing it, staring it down, laser focus, just go ahead and press the button for them. I want you pressing the button, not their paw or their body in any way, because then there's not muscle memory involved. And some learners might find it aversive. But if you're pressing the button, then they're feeling it move under their paw. They're feeling the vibration. They're seeing it light up if they have the visual input and you have the connect buttons. So it just gives them that much more feedback to help them realize, oh, all I got to do is push on this and then I get exactly what I want. Nice. And we've got an upcoming mentorship call specifically around target training that Calvin went ahead and highlighted that is in the chat right now. And I will show you what that means, where to find those. So hopefully that helps with thinking about target training. Definitely check out those videos. And I've got some resources for you all that I recommend. So community.fluent.pet, where a lot of you all are watching this right now, is one of the best resources we have. There's more than 4.5 years worth of people's experiences on here. Underneath the welcome area, start button teaching, step-by-step instructions. If you are the type that likes to learn this way, that's there for you. FAQs, we've got 41 of these. More than that with all the A's and B's in here too, that you can do a deep dive on here. You can always ask a question on the forum, but there's a chance you might not even have to put in the energy typing it out and it's already answered here. Under the button bootcamp section, this is just for folks like you who have attended bootcamp. Under events, this is where you can find a recording of today's bootcamp. So it's going right now, but when you switch to past, as soon as we're done today, it will appear here. You can also find other recordings if that would be helpful. You're also welcome to RSVP for another bootcamp. If it would be helpful to attend again, we'd love to have you. If you have a household member that you think would benefit from attending, same thing, we'd love to have them. And then under mentorship calls, we've been teasing these for a little bit here, but this is where you can RSVP for these, and they're with our guides who have had proven success with their learners. Janine has dog and cats who are using the buttons. We've got the spamming one that was linked if you want more help picking first words. And so usually there's a quick intro and then people can just talk through their questions. You're welcome to RSVP and just listen in. No pressure to contribute if you aren't ready to yet, or if it's not relevant, totally up to you. Under resources, this is where we've got that self-study learning center. Here's the links to the paw targeting tutorials that were shared in the chat as well. Here's a soundboard planning tool. If you're the type of person who wants to have an idea of where things are going, feel free to take advantage of that. Just let your learner be the guide. Let things change as needed based on their interests, based on events that might make a button that you had planned on adding, 5 buttons from now. Suddenly it's relevant right now. Go ahead and add it right now. Don't let your plan hold you back. We've got lots of really great contributions from Calvin with Jason here. If you want to see them in action, I love seeing all of those. And under discussion, this is where you can find different deals and find some other in-depth info too. And chat, would love to hear from you if you have a question, a win, update, struggle, anything like that. And then one last thing I want to show you under discussion. If you are a pet professional, if you work in the vet field, training, rescue, anything like that, and you want to learn more about teaching how to teach buttons, let us know. We would love to have you join our industry pros course as well. Okay, last thing I want to show you under discussion, show off your soundboard. If you're looking for inspiration, there are as many different soundboard layout options as there are households out there. Here's that soundboard planning tool in action. Lots of folks kind of have this cockpit style, as you can see, but then others have the island style that is similar to what we have set up here for my cats. You can see kind of a nice scratching rug here with the tiles around. I love to highlight this board of Sasha's because even though it's sort of cockpit style here and in a nice space-saving, tucked out of the way corner design, there's still enough room for Sasha's dogs to get behind the board and stand here and press. And I note that because many of our learners like to watch us while pressing. You can see, I think that's Freya there, focusing very intently. So many of them like to watch us after pressing to see that we're going to respond. So having the board set up in a way that it's easy for them to make eye contact with us is important for those who are visual. Right. Let me share one more resource and then we'll dive into, I see more questions came through, so I can't wait to keep chatting. So in addition to all the free resources I just shared, we also have the Let's Get Them Pressing course. This is a 4-week cohort-based class that has live coaching in addition to asynchronous materials that you're working through. I helped contribute to the cat information, and it's taught by Diane of NeuroDog Training. That's who developed our Industry Pros course as well. She's IAABC certified, or excuse me, KPA certified, and it's guest instructed by Alexis with Bunny as well. Lots of really great topics. So much fun. I know Calvin and Jason rocked going through the course as well. And if you're interested, there's 25% off for the Let's Get Them Pressing course. We'll add that to the chat. I skipped ahead. Sorry, y'all. It's that course 25 code at the bottom here. That does not expire. Thank you, Calvin. And then if anybody is realizing that they want more buttons or hex tiles or need more, we also have 15% off everything at FluentPet for the next 24 hours. And this does include the Connect set, which is less commonly discounted. So we'll get that shared with you all as well. And then if you have any feedback for us, we're always looking to improve. We'll add that feedback link in the chat as well here. Thank you all so much. All right, and I'll dive into your additional questions that came through here. And if anybody has any additional, feel free to either raise your hand or type it out, whatever you are comfortable with. Calvin, thank you again. So many great links in the chat here. All right, so Jenny asks, does it matter who records the buttons? My niece wants to be Olive's voice. Could this slow her progress if I'm the main teacher? Excellent question. And this is not one that we have enough evidence for yet. I do suspect that the more consistent things sound, the better, right? For making those associations. That's what makes sense to me. But that being said, there are many people in the community who have multiple primary teachers, but only one person's recording, a voice recorded on the buttons. And those learners seem to have no problem. And others who are like, why would I give my dog my voice? That's my voice. That's weird. So there's people who do AI generated button voices as well, for the concepts and all. And we just don't have enough evidence yet to see. And they're all so individual anyway that it's hard to say, does it slow things down? Maybe it speeds things up because it's such a novel sound. I will say, my friend button, for the longest time was recorded in my best friend's voice. Now he just has his own button, recorded in his voice. So I do try to differentiate some in that way, at least. And our help button was getting a little bit lost in the shuffle. And I wanted it to reflect the urgency that it's being pressed with. So I actually changed the recording to kind of sound like help, like a little bit dramatic. That's not how I typically narrate it, or how I would typically say help, but it, I think, helped for emphasis. So all of that to say, it's totally up to you. I think it could be really fun. It might make Olive pay more attention. It's great to have your niece on board too. Um, when it's time to add a new button, if she's not immediately available, think about the logistics of that. I don't know what your situation is, but it's not. Yeah, there could be some pros to it. It's hard to say if there are even cons. We just don't have enough info yet. I would love for you to do it and report back. You can always change it up too if it doesn't seem like it's working after a few weeks. Yeah, great question. I've taught them to provide their paws as part of training previously. I use the button and then move the treat away. Any that has helped them shift weight to the press the button. That's great. Yeah, love that. A step up and kind of perch behavior on the buttons is a lot of what the Justin Bieber the cat and the cat school videos work on as well. Yeah, any of that kind of weight shift, any perching on your hand, getting them to step onto the button that way too. I love it. Yeah, get creative, reinforce any ways that you can. Oh, Calvin, that's funny. Any additional questions that you all have while we're together? I know we've been going for a while today. I really appreciate all of you being here, for your willingness to learn something new, to put yourselves out there. Remember to have fun with this. It's not rocket science, right? It's new. There is nuance. We can always change it up. If you pick a button and they're not into it, that's okay. We can always re-record it. So try not to get too serious. Dive in. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Normally I say something like good luck, but again, you know your learner and your household best. You've got this. And we're here to support as well with future boot camps, our mentorship calls, the forum, social media, whatever it is. I see some typing, so I'll hang out in case these are any questions coming through. But for anybody who needs to go, again, I know we are way over. So thank you again for being here. Calvin, thank you so much for all of your help in the chat. Really, really appreciate you. And again, thank you all for being here and for trying something new with your learners. Oh, quick question of how long did you wait before introducing multiple words? So I start with 3 buttons. My cat started with eat, pets, and play. And then the moment they're independently pressing, and especially if you see them trying to press and get a different outcome. So Katie started to press the eat button repeatedly when she had plenty of food and was just staring me down and was basically pressing eat to get my attention. So we added an attention button, because she was communicating via her body language that was actually what she wanted. So that to me, it doesn't mean, again, that they don't understand or that you've done something wrong. Sometimes it's that they're trying to communicate that they want a different button or to tell you something different. That's why body language still always is relevant while working on this. Oh, nice. So you have buttons like spring and ball. Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and so if you don't already have like pets or brush, and especially knowing that you have one learner that is already interested, I would keep adding at their pace. Yeah. Throw can be great, or play. Yeah, to combine with spring and ball. Or again, you can change it up and go for some different concepts, whether it's food, attention, other things that are motivating to them. Yeah, anytime it's nice and actionable, like throw, that can be really good. But it's up to you. Bernie, my one-eyed guy, he's all about play and adventuring. That's what's motivating to him. So I'm adding more action buttons to keep him engaged. Katie, all about those food buttons. She likes her outside button too, to request adventuring a little bit, but she's all about the food. Hence the pumpkin specific button for her to request that as a meal topper. So expand based on their individual interests. Yeah. Yeah. Combining actions. Yeah. And when we're starting off, pressing just one or two buttons, saying one or two concepts so that we're not overwhelming them, but then you can gradually keep adding. So if they're using one button, then we can be consistently modeling with two. Once they're using two buttons, we can consistently be modeling with three. Yeah. I love the idea of you thinking about how you can be combining the existing buttons, but there's no harm in just continuing to add concepts that are not as relevant for combinations yet, just if that's what they want to talk about, right? The combos will come naturally with time and relevancy. Keep practicing that proficiency and helping them understand that different buttons mean different things as well. I love the way you're thinking about this. And you've got multiple learners that will all be learning from each other too. Even if it doesn't seem like it, they're always learning and observing from each other. So appreciate y'all again. Yeah, thank you guys. All right, I'm going to let everybody go. Thank you again. Thank you again for your questions. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. And I can't wait to hear how your button teaching journeys go in the future. So please don't be strangers. Thanks again, y'all. Bye.